Hermetic medicine. The orthodoxies of Theophrastus Paracelsus. Book 1, Concerning the Mystery of the Microcosm. If, my dearest sons, we consider the misery by which we are detained in a gross and gloomy dwelling, exposed to hunger and to many and various accidents from all sources, by which we are overwhelmed and surrounded, we see that we could scarcely flourish and even live so long as we followed the medicine prescribed by the ancients. For we were continually hedged in by calamities and bitter conditions, and we were bound with terrible chains. Everyday things became worse with us, as with others, who are weighed in the same balance, whom also the ancients have not so far been able to help or to heal by means of their books. We do not in this place advance the different causes of this misfortune. This only we say, that many teachers, by following the ancient methods, have acquired for themselves much wealth, credit, and renown, though they did not deserve it, but got together such great resources by simple lies. From which consideration we have wished to elaborate and write this memorial work of ours, that we might arrive at a more complete and happier method of practice, since there are presented to us those mysteries of nature which are too wonderful to be even thoroughly investigated. Wherefore we have come to consider how that art can be reconciled with the mysteries of nature, in opposition to those who, so far, have not been able to arrive at the art at all. The strength of this mystery of nature is hindered by the bodily structure, just as if one were bound in a prison with chains and fetters. From this, the mind is free. For in its operation, this mystery is like fire in green wood, which seeks to burn but cannot on account of the moisture. Since then hindrance arises from this source, one had to see how to get free from it. For such freedom being secured, this art of separation can only be compared to the art of the apothecaries, as light is compared to darkness. And this we say not in mere arrogance, but on account of the great frauds practiced by apothecaries and physicians. Wherefore, not undeservedly, we call them darkness or caves of robbers and impostors, since in them many persons are treated for gain by ignorant men, persons who, if they were not rich, would at once be pronounced healthy, since the practitioners know that there is no remedy or help for these people in their consultations. This, then, is worthy to be called an art, which teaches the mysteries of nature, which by means of the quintessence can cure a contraction and bring about health in the space of 4 days, whereas otherwise death would be the result. A wound, too, can be healed in 24 hours, which would scarcely yield to bodily treatment as many days. Let us, therefore, readily approach by experiment this separation of the mysteries of nature from the hindrances of the body. First, then we have to consider what is of all things most useful to man and most excellent. It is to learn the mysteries of nature, by which we can discover what God is and what man is, and what avails a knowledge of heavenly eternity in earthly weakness. Hence arises a knowledge of theology, of justice, of truth, since the mysteries of nature are the only true life of man, and those things are to be imitated which can be known and obtained from God as the eternal good. For although many things are gained in medicine, and many more in the mysteries of nature, nevertheless, after this life, the eternal mystery remains. And what is it? We have no foundation for asserting, save that which has been revealed to us by Christ. And hence arises the ignorant stupidity of theologians, who try to interpret the mysteries of God, whereof they know not the least jot, and what it is not possible for men to formulate, namely the will of him who gave the mystery. But that word of his they twist to their own pride and avarice, from whence arise misleading statements, which every day increase more and more. Hence it comes that we lightly value, nay, think nothing at all of that reason which is not evidently founded on the mysteries. In like manner, the jurists have sanctioned laws according to their own opinions, which shall secure themselves against loss, those the safety of the state be imperiled. Seeing then that in these faculties so many practices have come into vogue which are contrary to equity, let us dismiss the same of the proper time. Nor do we care much for the vain talk of those who say more about God than he has revealed to them, and pretend to understand him so thoroughly as if they had been in his counsels, in the meantime abusing us and deprecating the mysteries of nature and of a philosophy, about all of which they are utterly ignorant. The dishonest cry of these men is their principal knowledge, whereby they give themselves out to be those on whom our faith depends, and without whom heaven and earth would perish. O consummate madness and imposture on the part of human creatures, in place whereof it would be more just that they should esteem themselves to be naught but unprofitable servants. Yet we, by custom, imitating them, easily learn, together with them, to bend the word of our teacher and creator to our own pride. But since this word is not exactly known to us, can only be apprehended by faith, and is founded on no human reason, however specious, let us rather cast off this yoke and investigate the mysteries of nature, the end whereof approves the foundation of truth. And not only let us investigate these, but also the mysteries which teach us to fulfill the highest charity. And that is the treasure of the chief good, which in this writing of our orthodoxies we understand in a material way. From the aforesaid foundation we have drawn our medicine by experiment, wherein it is made clear to the eye that things are so. Then coming to its practice, we divide this book by our orthodoxies into 10 as a sort of aid to the memory, so that we may not forget these matters, and at the same time may speak of them so far openly that we may be understood by our disciples, but not the common people, for whom we do not wish these matters to be made clear. We do not care to open our mind and thoughts and heart to those deaf ears, just as we do not wish to disclose them to impious men, but we shall endeavor to shut off our secrets from them by a strong wall and a key. And if by chance this our labor shall not be sufficiently safeguarded from those idiots who are enemies of all true arts, we shall forbid writing the 10th book concerning the uses of those which precede it, so that we may not give the children's meat to the dogs. Nevertheless, the other 9 will be sufficiently understood by our own disciples. And to speak more plainly of these matters, it must be known that in this treaty on the microcosm are proved and demonstrated all those points which it contains, which also embrace medicine, as well as those matters which are interconnected therewith. The subject of the microcosm is bound up with medicine and ruled by it. Following it, none otherwise than a bridled horse follows him who leads it, or a mad dog bound with chains. In this way, I understand that medicine attracts nature and everything that has life. Herein 3 things meet to us, which shew by what force they are filled and produced. Firstly, in what way the 5 senses are assisted by the mysteries of nature. Those senses do not proceed from nature, nor spring naturally as a herb from its seed, since there is no material which produces them. Secondly, the mobility of the body is to be considered, whence it proceeds, by what power it is moved and exercised, and in what matter it is ministered to. Thirdly, there must be a knowledge of all the forces in the body, and what forces apply to each member, and are transmuted according to the same nature as a particular limb, when originally they are identical in nature. First, then, we will speak of these senses: sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. The following example teaches us. The eyes have a material substance of which they are composed, as it is handed down in the composition of the body, so of the other senses. But vision itself does not proceed from the same source as the eye, nor the hearing from sound, or from the same source as the ears, nor touch from flesh, nor taste from the tongue, nor smell from the nostrils, any more than reason proceeds from the brain. But these are the bodily instruments, or rather the envelopes in which the senses are born. For it must not be understood that these senses depend solely on the favor of God, in the sense that they do not belong to the nature of man, but are infused solely by the grace of God above and beyond all nature, to the end that, if one were born blind, the mighty works of God might be known to us. We must not think so in this case, for the above-mentioned senses have each to their own body, imperceptible, impalpable, just as the root of the body, on the other hand, exists in a tangible form. For man is made up of 2 portions, that is to say, of a material and a spiritual body. Matter gives the body, the blood, the flesh, but spirit gives hearing, sight, feeling, touch, and taste. When, therefore, a man is born deaf, this happens from a defect of the domicile in which hearing should be quartered. For the spiritual body does not complete its work in a situation which is badly disposed. Herein, then, are recognized the mighty things of God, that there are 2 bodies, an internal and a corporeal, enclosed in one, as made clear in the generation of men. Medicine acts upon the house by purging it, so that the spiritual body may be able to perfect its actions therein, like civet in a pure and uncontaminated casket. Coming next to the power of motion in the body, let us inquire whence it is produced and has its origin, that is, how the body unites itself to the medicine, so that the faculty of motion is increased. The matter is thus to be understood. Everything that lives has its own motion from nature. This is sufficiently proved of itself so far as natural motion is concerned. But the motion of which we think may be described as that which springs from the will, as, for example, in lifting the arm one might ask how this is done, when I do not see any instrument by which I influence it, by that takes place that I desire to take place. One must judge with leaping, walking, running, and other matters which occur in opposition to, or outside of, natural motion. They have their origin in this, that intention, a powerful mistress, exist above my notions in this following manner. The intention or imagination kindles the vegetation faculty as the fire kindles wood, as we describe more particularly in our treatise on the imagination. Nor is it more powerful to fulfill its operations than it is its own body where it exists and lives. So in every body, nothing is more easily kindled than the vegetative soul, because it runs and walks by itself and is disposed for this very purpose. For even as a hidden or buried fire blazes forth, so soon as it is exposed and catches the air, so my mind is intent upon seeing something. I cannot with my hands direct my eyes whither I will, but my imagination turns them whithersoever it is my pleasure to look. So too, as to my motion must it be judged. If I desire to advance and arbitrarily propose this to myself, at once my body is directed to one or the other place fixed on by myself. And the more this is impressed on me by my imagination and thought, the more quickly I run. In this way, imagination is the motive power of my running. None otherwise does medicine purify those bodies in which there is a spiritual element, whence it happens that their motion is more easily perfected. Thirdly, it must be understood that in the body a distribution is made over all the members of everything which is presented to it, either without or within. In this distribution, a change takes place by which things are modified, so that one part subverses the constitution of the heart, another accommodates itself to the nature of the brain, and the rest in like manner. For the body attracts to itself in two ways, from within and from without. Within, it attracts whatever it taken through the mouth. Externally, it attracts air, earth, water, and fire. Thus, then, the subject is to be arranged and defined. Those matters which are received from within need not be described. They are known by the foundation of our nature, what they are which are distributed, and we shall speak subsequently as to their division. But externally, one must understand whatever is necessary to itself. By the body attracts from the four elements. Pardon me. Unless this were done, the eternal nutriment would not suffice to sustain the life of man. For instance, moisture not existing constitutionally in the body is extracted by the body itself from water. Whence it happens that if one stands or sits in water, it is not necessary that it satisfy his thirst from without. It does not indeed take place in the same way that heat is extinguished by water like fire, but the internal heat attracts to itself the moisture from without, and imbibes it just as though it were from within. Hence it happens that in the Alps cattle are able to remain the whole summer without drinking. The air is drink for them, or supplies its place, and the same should be judged with regard to man. The nature of man, too, may be sustained in the absence of food, if the feet are planted in the earth. Thus we have seen a man who lived 6 months without food, and was sustained only by this method. He wore a clod of earth on his stomach, and when it got dry, took a new and fresh one. He declared that during the whole of that time he never felt hungry. The cause of this we shew in the treatise of the appetite of nature.
Okay, wow, that was some interesting stuff. I think we're gonna have to include that also. We're getting really into the alchemy here, and just getting initiated into all of this. Some of the things I'm noticing is internal is the beginning stage of alchemy. So I think what I was talking about yesterday was just being healthy, internal prayer, Yeah, Spagyrics. I think Spagyrics is beginning to look like just internal change, and I mean, that's how you change on the outside. Let's stick around here. Yeah, so I was reading from the book. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. The Hermetic and Alchemical writings of Paracelsus. So we're got involved in Paracelsus yesterday. Super interesting guy. So this book is, as I mentioned, it's divided up into 10 parts. So I'll give you a little lowdown here. So, Book the first, concerning the mystery of the microcosm. Book the second, concerning the separation of the elements. Book the third, on the separation of the elements from metals. Book the fourth, concerning the quintessence. Book the fifth, concerning arcana. Book the sixth, concerning the magisteries. So it's got a little synopsis below it. So book the third, the separation of the elements from metal, concerning the separation of the elements from out of marchesites, concerning the separation of elements from stone, concerning the separation of elements from oleaginous substances. Yeah, this is some really interesting stuff, guys. I think we hit the gold mine here. That's all I was saying. We have everything at our fingertips, and these guys, Paracelsus, just seems like he was questioning modern medicine and modern ethics, modern moral, modern purity, much like us. So it's only natural that we pick up the torch, the Hermetic torch. Okay, the quintessence. Concerning the extraction of the quintessence from metal, concerning the extraction of the quintessence from marchesites, from salts, from stones, from gems, from pearls. This is basically, here we go. Concerning the extraction of the quintessence from eatables and drinkables. Yeah, this is super duper duper interesting. We're going to start up with that every day now.
All right, and now we'll switch gears and continue his Chariot of Antimony. And as you remember yesterday, this is, we're getting more into alchemy here. So this is the Basil Valentine book. And just a refresher, there are 5 principal heads in the meditation, if you remember. What are they? Pop quiz, hotshot. Okay. Invocation of God, contemplation of nature, true preparation, the way of using, utility, and fruit. For he who regards not these shall never obtain place among true chemists or fill up the number of perfect Spagyrists. Why do I keep messing that one up? Okay, we're Spagyrists. We're initiated Spagyrists. Just getting initiated into spagyric theories. So it's okay. Most people Ask anyone. Do you know what spagyrics is? Aw, what? Pardon me? You coming on to me? Alright, so yeah, we got through contemplation yesterday. And I'm just trying to find out where we left off. I haven't been keeping track, but alright, how about we get to the antimony of two kinds? Do you remember that? If not, it'd just be a good refresher, probably. Okay, also let the well-meaning and sincere observer of art know that there are two kinds of antimony, very different from each other. One is fair, pure, of golden property, and that contains very much mercury, and the other, which hath much sulfur, is not so friendly to gold as the first, and is distinguished by fair, long, and white shining streaks. Therefore, one is more fit for medicine and alchemy than the other, as when the flesh of fishes is compared with the flesh of other animals, although both these are called flesh, yet each of these much differs from the flesh of the other. Even so, of the antimony, the difference is the same. Many do indeed write of the interior virtue of antimony, but few of them even taught the true foundation of the virtues with which it is endued, or found out which way and in what matter it receives them, so that their doctrine is founded upon words only, exists without any true foundation, and they themselves lose their fruit they hoped to receive by such writings. For to write truly of antimony is a work that requires profound meditations, a mind largely unfolding itself, and knowledge of its manifold preparation, and of the true soul of it, in which all the utility is cited, in which being known you may be able to give an indubitated judgment of what good or evil, venom or medicine is latent therein. It is not a matter of small moment by a true examine to search into antimony, and thereby penetrate fundamentally into its essence, and through earnest study to attain the final knowledge, therefore, that the venosity of the same, against which unskilled men ignorantly exclaim, may be taken away, and it be changed and prepared into a better state, becoming a medicine fit for use and void of venom. So they're just hitting on the idea that venom can be poisonous, or medicine based on the antimony. Artists vex, rest, and torment antimony. Many artists intending to anatomize antimony have divers ways vexed, rested, and tormented the same, in such wise as it cannot be well described in words, much less believed. Yet the matter being truly examined, they affected nothing, they sought nothing, not its true soul, and therefore could not find the feigned soul of it, which themselves sought. By the black colors a mist was cast before their eyes, so that they could neither themselves observe the true soul itself, nor it. Antimony compared to a circle. For antimony, like unto mercury, may fitly be compared to a round circle, of which there is no end, in which the more diligently any man seeks, the more he finds, if process be made by him in a right way and due order. Yet the life no one man is sufficient for to learn all the mysteries thereof. It is venom and a most swift poison. Also it is void of venom and most excellent medicine, whether it be used outwardly or inwardly, which is a thing hid from most men by reason of their own blindness, and they judge in an incredible foolish vain work, because through their ignorance, it is unknown to them who can no otherwise be excused than that they deserve the name of stupidity. Yet that is not to be suffered in them, because they desire not to learn or to be better informed either here or elsewhere. Yeah, they're just indifferent. But it can be annoying. Dummies can be annoying sometimes. Antimony endued with the first four qualities. Antimony is endued with all the four qualities. It is cold and humid, and against it is hot and dry, and accommodates itself to the 4 seasons of the year. Also, it is volatile and fixed. The volatile part of it is not void of venom, but the fixed is free from all venosity, which is so very strange, as it may be reputed one of the 7 wonders of the world, of which so many writers have discoursed, not knowing themselves that they write. Antimony's virtues inexhaustible. There hath been no man before me, and at this day there is none found, who hath so thoroughly learned the power, virtue, strength, operations, and efficacy of antimony, or so profoundly penetrated into all the energy thereof, as nothing more is latent in it unfound out, or which cannot be brought to light by experience. If such a man can be found, he would be worthy to be carried about in a triumphal chariot, as in times past was granted to monarchs and potent heroes after they had happily fought battles and returned with victory. But I fear that many of our doctors will be constrained to provide a chariot for themselves. For the masters of the terrene world are so entangled with their own thoughts that they seek nothing from antimony but riches, and to forget to search its utility for medicine, the health of the body, which notwithstanding ought above all things to be sought, that being brought to light, the wonderful works of our God may be made manifest, and the glory given to him with great thankfulness. And I think we need a prayer. So, dear God, for the master of the terrene world, thank you for nothing but your help, your guiding light, health of my body, health of my mind, antimony, alchemy, all of these principles we're learning, this new profound religious experience I'm having and sharing with everyone daily. Thank you for this, God and Yahweh. I love you. I'm sorry for the things I've done in my past that were bad, ill-willed, and if I've lied or hurt other people in the past, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Hail peace and hail Yahweh. Alright, just had to say a quick prayer for you, me, and the good of man. Okay, let's get back to antimony here. Okay, so I was talking about motivation. So you want to have a pure heart and a pure mind when you're being initiated into alchemy. So the wonderful works of God may be made manifest, and the glory given to him with great thankfulness. So thankfulness is where we left off with a good prayer. So thank you, God. It is not to be denied, but that more riches and health may be found in it there, either you all or I myself can believe, for I profess myself no other than a disciple in the knowledge of antimony, although in it I have seen, experienced, and learned more than you, and all such as you are, who arrogate to yourselves great skill that there within, either have learned or have can learn. Yet no man should therefore be troubled or despair of benefits, but because the world, indulging their own ingratitude, have neither esteemed nor the due reverence acknowledged the munificence of the Most High, but have preferred riches before health. God hath spread it, as it were a spider's web before their eyes, that being blind they might not know the secrets of nature, absconded in the form of this mineral. So health before riches, don't forget that. But here we go, riches required by all. So I think the riches come with health, with true health and spirituality. All men cry out, rich, rich, we would be. I confess you all aspire to richness. And with the epicure say, the body must first be provided for, the soul may be at length also find somewhat. And with Midas as in the fable, you desire all things whatsoever you touch may be turned into gold. Hence it is that so many seek their desired riches in antimony, but because they accept not the gift of their Creator with a grateful heart, which before all things should be procured, and cast the love of their neighbor behind their back, therefore they in vain look the horse in the mouth. For they know his age and strength no more than the guests of the marriage feast in Cans of Galilee knew the wonderful work which Christ were wrought when he turned water into wine. They knew that wine was water, and that water was turned into wine. They perceived by the taste, but how the transmutation happened was hid from them. For the Lord Jesus and Savior reserved the supernatural work to himself as a testament of his omnipotency. Wherefore I say, it is every man's duty to search out the mysteries and arcanums which the Creator hath insisted in all the creatures, for although, as we said, is not credible that we men can thoroughly learn and penetrate all things, yet we are not forbid to inquire into them, since by study and diligence so much may be effected, as although through some defect a man may be hindered in such wise as he cannot attain to be desired riches and perfect sanity, yet he may acquire enough to occasion him to repent of his labor, but rather to minister unto him matter of joy and rejoicing, that he sees himself so far in adeptist, and he stands always obliged to render thanks to his Creator. So Jesus and God are alchemists and spiritists of the highest order. Solution when necessary. Therefore, whatsoever desires to become a perfect anatomist in antimony, the first thing to be considered by him is solution of the body, and in order to this he must take in a convenient place and propose to himself the right way, that he be not seduced into devious paths. Secondly, he must observe the governance of the fry, taking care that it be neither too much nor too little, or too hot or too cold, for the sum of all of its is seated in an exact governance of the fire, by which the vivifying spirits of antimony are extracted and loosened from their bonds, and so rendered capable to manifest the effects operatively. Also he must take great care that this operative virtue be not mortified and perish adustion, dose observable. Thirdly, the use or dose to be observed by, that he may administer it due manner, knowing the measure. As I above mentioned, when I spake of the 5 principal heads requisite in the exercise and practice of chemistry, but here I only hint at it curiously by way of a parable. By resolution the sum of the matter is proposed, but by fire it is prepared to profit. For a butcher cuts out an ox and divides it into parts, but no man can profitably enjoy this flesh, unless he first boil it by fire, by which operation the red substance of flesh is changed and prepared into white aliment. If a man constrained by hunger should eat the raw and red flesh, it would be venom to him rather than medicine, because the natural heat of the stomach is too weak to conceit and digest the crude body. Hence, my dear friend, you may not conclude that since antimony hath greater venom and a more gross mineral body than animal flesh, as by the above recited common example I have already shewed, I will also prove more perilous if used crude without remain venom, which will suddenly kill the sick. Vinegar not transmutable into wine. Therefore, the venosity of antimony is to be taken away, and it may never again be converted into venom after the same manner as wine, which being once by putrefaction and corruption turned into vinegar, never afterwards yields any spirit of wine, but always is and remains vinegar. But on contrary, if the spirit only of the wine be separated, and the aquosity left by itself, the same spirit afterwards exalted, it may never in any wise be changed into vinegar, although it should be kept an 100 years, but always remains spirit of wine, no otherwise than as vinegar remains vinegar.
All right. So, yeah, getting some heavy alchemy here, guys. How's it feel, huh? Getting our feet wet here. Feels pretty good to me. I feel like I'm learning a lot already about alchemy, and it feels natural. It feels good. So, let's do a little contemplation here, right? Okay, so do you guys remember what we're dealing with here? So you're dealing with prayer, which is the invocation of God, right? The contemplation, theory, preparation, use, utility. Yeah. It's pretty easy, guys. But, we gotta build a good foundation. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take us a long road. But it's okay. This is our work. This is what we're doing. And, just getting into Triumphal Chariot of Antimony. So, it's just talking about a chariot is like a vehicle. And, so antimony, you guys know what that is? Do you? Antimony. trivalent or pentavalent metalloid element with atomic number 51 that commonly occurs in a brittle metallic silvery white crystalline form, and that is used especially in alloys, semiconductors, and flame retardant substances. Used in a sentence. The metals discovered included antimony, cadmium, chromium, and nickel. It's like being back in a chemistry class, guys, ain't it? It was fun. Chemistry was fun. I liked it. So, atomic number 51. But, as you can tell, Valentine is using antimony. Completely different context. That meaning is dead. So, just like Apocrypha, all these things we're studying are dead and forgotten. So, bringing them back. It's a resurrection. Just made me think of the apocalypse of Elijah. Like, you can't raise the dead. Are we raising the dead here? Are we raising Paracelsus? Hail Valentine, Paracelsus, give us your knowledge. Jesus Christ, the original alchemist. Okay, what do you guys want to do now, huh? Okay, you thinking what I'm thinking, huh? Do you want to skip ahead just a little? Okay, we'll skip ahead just a little, just one thing, just because it is jumping out at me. So glass of antimony with borax. So I heard borax is really good for detoxing, cleaning out your body. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give you good advice like cutting your leg off or getting carved up. I don't know about that. I'm not a doctor. So I just heard if you take a pinch, go to the store, take a pinch once a day, it's going to clean out your lungs and your respiratory system, which is important. Okay, so glass of antimony with borax. For there are other glasses prepared of antimony by addition of borax and other things in this manner. Take of crude antimony 1 part, of Venetian borax 2 parts. Put these together in a crucible while setting the vessel in a wind furnace and urging the fire with bellows. Cause to flow that they may be well and perfectly mixed together. Afterward, pour out the mixture into a pan or dish of copper, made hot, as thin as possible, as before was said in the superior preparation, and you'll find you antimony fair and transparently clear, like a priopus or ruby, provided you observe the due and accurate method, operating as you ought in the governing fire. The caution to which our author here ascribes the success is what you use a most strong fire, such as is required for melting gold, for without this you cannot acquire the redness of a pyropus. Wow, so we're already seriously getting into it. I only skipped ahead a little. It's a miracle. Priopus. Let's check this out. So it's only a matter of time before I start doing this live or on scene. Doing these antimonies. Chariot of Antimony. Okay, so it's taking to load. second. Type of garnet. Obsolete. Yeah, these are really old words, guys, so I'm gonna have to find a book. These new fangled dictionaries are useless for us. The Hermetic order of the Apocryphal Spiritist. I think, I'm going to do another video later to get one out every day since I'll be driving on Thursday. So, I think I might do Dr. Graves' reading later, but I just wanted to remind you to go down over there to www.howtowinIncourt.com. It's gonna cost you a little money, but it's totally worth it. You're gonna learn about the law there. You're gonna feel like a man or a woman that has freedom and rights and juice and due process. You're gonna feel like you got all that just by giving a good man a few Monopoly dollars. It's gonna come back to you tenfold too, with knowledge and spirituality. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Let's finish it off here with some Apocalypse of Elijah. That's what it's all about, guys. Talking all this gold and vinegar. Let's talk about God here. All right. So if you remember, the sinners were weeping. They said, "You made us hostile to Yahweh. You are able. Rise up and pursue them." So that was Son of Lawless. Oh, that was the shameless one. Yeah, he's not ashamed. And, watch out for those shameless people. Look out for those signs. If you see any red flags, like, hey, this guy's swearing a lot, or this guy's on drugs, or just not to say, oh, I can't talk to people like that, but just be wary, man. Watch out. They might make you hostile towards Yahweh. You might not even know it. It's like a slow thing. It's not going to happen immediately. It's like a frog being boiled. Slowly, your energy is drawn down, your vibrations are drawn down if you're hanging out with shameless people, and you're being lazy and complacent, and you're not doing any great work. Okay, so enough preaching that word. Then he will take his fiery wings and fly out after the saints. He will fight with them again. The angels will hear and come down. They will fight with him in a battle of many swords. It will come to pass on that day that the Lord will hear and command the heaven and the earth with great wrath. And they will send for fire, and the fire will prevail over the earth 72 cubits. It will consume the sinners and take the devils like stubble. So look guys, good news. It's only taking the sinners and the devils. But the attitude to have isn't like, oh, hooray for us. It's like, oh, too bad for them. We're trying to wake them up. People won't listen to you. And a good point RV Truth made. If you do want to get out there and do something, don't act like a maniac. He's talking about people in Canada dressed in crazy costumes shouting the world is flat. So that sounds like an agent provocateur to me, or someone who's just mentally ill. And like I said, we're not judging the mentally ill here. to us, that's just demonic infestation. So, all you wackos, you're welcome here. We'll help you. Okay. A true judgment will occur on that day. The mountains and the earth will utter speech. The byways will speak with one another, saying, "Have you heard today the voice of a man who walks? He is not come to the judgment of the Son Yahweh." The sons of each will stand against him in the place where they were committed, whether those of the day or of the night. Those who belong to the righteous and elect will see the sinners, and those who persecuted them, and those who handed them over to death in their torments. Okay. Yeah, that's worth repeating. Think about that. Those who belong to the righteous and elect will see the sinners, and those who persecuted them, and those who handed them over to death in their torments. So, I'm going to bring it back to reality, present day. So, if you're all about the wax, wax, Dune. Okay, well, if you don't know what wax is, it's this thing in Dune. And these people think if you don't have that wax, you need to be persecuted. And they're deceived because there's no reason for that. The wax, you can just go read Dune real quick, okay? It's only like 400 pages. I'll think of a better way, a better analogy, okay? I can't think of anything right now. If there's something like this in society was happening where the sinners want you to take something that's going to potentially damage you and damage you. Yeah, they're persecuting you, so you're going to see them handed over to death in their torments. Is that something to be happy about? You're going to be like, oh, haha, look at you. You're in the Iron Maiden. I tried telling you, remember? I don't know. I'll feel bad for them. They're stupid. They can't help it. Then the sinners in torment will see the place of the righteous. They'll be down in the bowels of hell, and they'll see us up in heaven. Told you. We tried to warn you, but no. You were led astray by the shameless one. You went out to the desert with Marilyn Manson. Oh, woe to you. And thus grace will occur. In those days, that which the righteous will ask for will be given to them many times over. On that day, Yahweh will judge the heaven and the earth. He will judge those who transgressed in heaven and those who did so on earth. He will judge the shepherds of the people. He will ask about the flock of sheep, and they will be given to him without any deadly guile existing in them. After these things, Elijah and Enoch will come down. They will lay down the flesh of the world, and they will receive the spiritual flesh. They will pursue the son of lawlessness and kill him, since he is not able to speak. Kill him because he's not able to speak. So if he was able to speak, they wouldn't kill him. Not sure, guys. On that day, he will dissolve in their presence like ice, which was dissolved by a fire. He will perish like a serpent, which has no breath in it. They will say to him, your time has passed by for you. Now, therefore, you and those who believe you will perish. I still kind of... You still believe it? Oh, man, what's wrong with you? Okay, you deserve to perish. You still believe the lawlessness? They will be cast into the bottom of the abyss, and it will be closed for them. On that day, the Christ, the King, and all his saints will come forth from heaven. He will burn the earth. He will spend 1,000 years upon it. So if you look at Africa all the way to Russia, if you look at California, Eastern California, Arizona, to the south, follow those deserts. Something happened there. I'm not saying what. I'm not saying that the lords came out with Fache wonder weapons and blasted all the fornicators and defilers of truth and holy, but I'm not saying that. Okay, so 1,000 years to a god, I think, is like a week or so. To us, we're just mere mortals. It seems we don't even come close to living that long. It's like a dream. Like one lifetime is one night of sleep, one dream, one sweet dream is one lifetime. You have like 100 years. It's like 10 dreams equals one day to a god. So something to think about there. Time Lord. Hail to you, mighty Time Lord. Because the sinners prevailed over it, he will create a new heaven and a new earth. Earth? No deadly devil will exist in them. So what's going on now, I think. It's a test. Let's have good contact. Let's not be fornicators and sinners and dirty devils. Let's be clean, righteous. Let's clean our bodies. Let's pray. Prayer. Alchemy. Spagyrics. Spagyrus. Spagyria. Okay, so this is the last sentence. I'm kind of sad. It's over for the Apocalypse of Elijah. I feel like we went through it, and this is the end. He will rule with his saints, ascending and descending, while they are always with the angels, and they are with the Christ for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. It's like a day. They hang out for a day. Well, that was great. What are we gonna do next? It's another battle. Is there more demons? I don't know. That was a good one, guys. I really like that. So there's a notch in the Apocrypha belt there. We're gonna come back to that though. Maybe we'll be reading that in Greek in a year. Who knows? So later today we'll be starting some new Apocrypha. Exciting, because I know this is Apocryphite44, and that's what we're about here. The hidden. That includes alchemy and spagyrics. It's going to include those. Okay. And we're changing gears once again. I recorded the sequencer beforehand, so got a little time left. So we're changing gears big time here. So this is a fun reading. Jacob Boehm. This is from, let's see, what's going on? Light from Light, 7 Christian Mystics. This is the Apocryphal press book that I read from this week. Or that was last week, sorry. I spent my high school years as part of a fundamentalist church, an experience that wounded me significantly. No doubt, I in turn wounded several others in service of this church and its monstrous God. I am not proud of that. I'm only grateful that fundamentalists, though they are, my parents recognized that this church was so wacky, it was unhealthy, and put it in for a transfer to Benicia, California, to pry my sister and I from its clutches. I was so deeply wounded by its fundamentalist experience that not long after we moved, I renounced my faith, my allegiance to the God of my parents, and everything to do with the church. What this did was to leave me feeling even more acutely the spiritual vacuum in my life. Fundamentalism, I found out, could not quench my soul's thirst, and neither, as I quickly discovered, could sex or drugs or even rock and roll. You're a rock and roll suicide. Although, if anything came close, rock and roll did. Rock and roll's cool. Okay. And so it was that I found myself on my knees in my girlfriend's parking lot at 4 in the morning, blind, stinking, drunk, raging at the sky like keen air in the storm. In the midst of my alcoholic existential funk, I cursed the God of my parents and pleaded with the universe that if there were any real God, that he might be made known to me. Wow, I can relate to this. This is pretty cool. Well, be careful what you ask for. 24 hours later, I was speeding towards Disneyland with my girlfriend, Charissa, my best friend Bob, and his girlfriend Sherry. Out of the blue, I asked, "Bob, what is God?" The answer I received was a watershed. While Bob was driving down the 5, he began casually describing the universe as a vast, seemingly chaotic, but intricate dance. All things in nature know their place in the dance. The angels, the demons, the planets, the stars, the rocks and trees, and animals. The only creatures who had forgotten how to dance were the humans. Our religious traditions, Bob said, were simply humankind's feeble attempts to get back in step with the dance. The description hit me with the force of a vision. In fact, my own memory of this event is positively psychedelic. While Bob described the dance, it unfolded before my eyes. Like the Buddha, I experienced a moment of satori, where for a fleeting flake of time I beheld the great truth of the universe, after which nothing would ever be the same. I cried for 2 days. Wow, that's a long time. It's like, I forgot how to dance. I can't dance. I went to Disneyland, an atheist. I came back a universalist mystic. And how often do you hear that? I suppose I should keep quiet about it. It would give the Southern Baptist Convention just one more excuse to boycott Disney, I'm sure. It said that. It says I'm sure. I didn't put that in there, okay. Give me a break, Karen. I have not had many visionary experiences. Sorry for you, pal. This one was my first and certainly one of the most profound. I have no doubt that God orchestrated this little epiphany using the hippie son of hippie parents with no theological pedigree to rock the world of this little funny, because God is a sneaky guy and has a great sense of humor. Sneaky. Humor, yes. Sneaky. That's blasphemy. Okay. People's lives are changed by vision and epiphanies all the time. Even in times and places where having religious visions is not at all a popular thing to do. One of these people who found their world turned upside down by a sudden encounter with divine truth was Jacob Boehm. Jacob was a shoemaker in Lutheran Germany, born in 1575. We know almost nothing of his early life, but we do know that when he was 24, he caught the reflection of the sun in a polished pewter dish and was instantly plunged into an ecstatic vision. Boehm later wrote, "In 1/4 of an hour, I saw and knew more than if I had been many years together at a university." This unlearned man would spend the rest of his life attempting to describe in feeble and limited human language what he saw in that pewter dish. And that makes it difficult for me to describe it to you. One reason for this is that Boehm was attempting to describe the ineffable, which always sets a mystical writer up for failure. But like most mystic writers, Boehm did not let the limitedness of his language deter him. He just tried again. It's like me. The thing is, every time he tried, he used different images, hoping that this time he may get closer to actually being able to describe what he saw. But the use of ever different imagery makes it hard to tell you exactly what he was saying, since each interpretive lens took his metaphors in different directions. So to help me describe his system, I borrow a set of images from a familiar source, C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia. In the final Narnia book, The Last Battle, Aslan leads the Narnians through the door in the air to what he said was the real Narnia, of which their long-beloved Narnia was but a pale reflection. The sage lion was right. The Narnians discovered the light was brighter. The sun they knew could never have shone so brightly. The grass was of such a verdant hue that the grass they knew back in Narnia seemed dingy by comparison. And the waters that flowed in the streams made that mortal water they had always known seem like mere sludge. The Narnia they came from was almost exactly like the new Narnia, except that the old was now revealed to be only an inferior reflection of the real Narnia they were seeing now for the very first time. Lewis did not get this part of his story from Scripture, but from Boehm, who, in that momentous vision caught in the pewter dish, saw that this world was not real as we imagine it to be, but only a real reflection of the divine reality. He must have seen how the sun reflected in the dish appeared dimmer, distorted. The trees' colors washed together and lost their vibrancy. It is not hard to imagine the leaps his imagination took. For just as the sun in the dish was a dim reflection of the sun in the sky, so the sun in the sky was but a dim reflection of the sun as it shone in the divine reality. Boehm asserted that although the reflection is not a perfect one, it is close enough for us to draw certain conclusions about the nature of the divine reality. Boehm published his first book in 1612 titled Aurora, or Day Dawning. The first of this many attempts to describe his vision and its complex metaphysical implications. All of this would have been fine had the pastor of Görlitz, Martin Mahler, not died about the same time as Aurora was published, for Mahler was a mystic, part of a movement leading away from the strict Lutheran orthodoxy towards immediate mystical experience. Mahler was a perfect mentor for Boehm. But Mahler's successor, Gregory Richter, would prove to be his arch nemesis. Wow, this is an awesome story. Richter read Boehm's book, declared it heretical. I know it's a heretic, but it's heretical. Had all copies confiscated and banned Boehm from writing further. Boehm obeyed for a while, but soon the force of his unique vision compelled him to continue his attempts at description, and so copies of his new works from Boehm's pen began to circulate privately. On New Year's Day, 1624, Boehm's book of spiritual exercises, The Way of Christ, was published without his knowledge by a friend. The publication of his new heresies so enraged Pastor Richter that he attacked Boehm publicly from the pulpit, and the municipal council banished the mystical shoemaker from the city. Richter died soon after, and Boehm, feeling his age and suffering from illness, returned to his beloved city. The new pastor was much kinder to Jacob, and in late 1624 he went to Boehm's home to hear his last confession and administer the Lord's Supper. On November 17th, Jacob Boehm breathed his last and passed into the world of the real, with which he had been obsessed since catching his first glimpse of it so many years ago. There are many surprising elements of Boehm's teaching. One of the most astounding is his assertion that God can only be aware of himself when he manifests himself as an other. In other words, God is incapable of self-reflection because there's nothing for God to reflect upon. The pressure of desire, the desire to know and be known, became intolerable for God, and he became frustrated. This pressure resulted in movement, one could even say an eruption of God. This motion outwards resulted in another mode of being for God, which could be beheld and interacted with. It was all still God, but it was not God in God's fullness, but an extension, a reflection of God. The upshot of this clear and is reminiscent of many mystical systems, from Hinduism to Kabbalah to process theology. God needs the material universe to achieve self-actualization just as much as the material universe needs God for its being and sustenance. God and creation are bound up in a waltz, a tango, an ecstatic dance in which all things in nature know their place except for us, much like Bob's revelation to John. Another amazing implication of Boehm's system is that the process of creation is just that, a process. While people can be moral or immoral, processes are amoral. A process simply is a gun, a newspaper, or an automobile are things. They are not moral or immoral in themselves. It is people who are moral or immoral in how they use things. Just so a process like a piece of machinery is amoral. We see evidence of Boehm's process of creation everywhere we look. In the late 50s and the early 60s, the black community here in the United States longed to enjoy the rights and privileges promised them by the Constitution, but were frustrated by their desire by the enduring evil of racism. The frustration built up until it erupted into a movement. The Civil Rights Movement. This movement resulted in the creation of a good thing, as America and the world woke up to the self-evident fact that had eluded them, that all people are equal in the eyes of God. The process was the same as Boehm's creation story. Desire was frustrated. The resulting pressure erupted into movement, and this movement created something new. As I said, this is an immoral process, but one that we can learn from. In the past few weeks, we have seen the same process at work with less happy results. The Palestinians have been treated most unfairly by those in power in Israel. The Palestinian desire for a homeland, for the hope of living to their potential, for opportunities for their children, has been relentlessly frustrated. This frustration has reverberated throughout the Muslim world, added itself to other anti-American frustrations, and the collective accumulated pressure has erupted into our world with grave, malevolent force. I have no sympathy for the actions of the terrorists, but neither am I surprised by what has happened. Frustrated desire will always erupt, and a new thing will come into being. We have yet to see what this new thing will be. Perhaps it will lead us into a horrific war. Perhaps it is the bursting of a boil that brings our attention to the fact that the body of humanity is ill and needs healing. Perhaps Israel will repent for her sins against the Palestinians. Perhaps this tragedy will result in a greater awareness of the humanity of our Muslim brothers and sisters and will facilitate greater dialogue and global healing. More likely, a little of both will happen, but something will emerge. I pray that after so much evil, something good may result. Call me an optimist if you must, but it is true that I have hope. I have hope that the religions of the world will realize their common attempts to get in step with the divine dance of the universe. Hope that nations will wake up to the violence they perpetrate against those living right next door to them. Hope that in the end, the process of creation will always lead to beauty, truth, and goodness, in spite of the pain that birth always entails. All right, so yeah, another excellent reading. Light from Light, 7 Christian Mystics. I love those kind of stories. Awesome. If you like that, go down to the website. This book's free. I recommend it. www.apocryphile.org. Apocryphile.org. That's right. And okay, that made me think of something that was in the back of my mind that I wanted to say, and it's not in the Bible or anything backed up by Scripture, but the late great Norm Macdonald, R.I.P. Perhaps he's still alive, who knows? But he said something interesting. God can't create good. Let me say it again. God cannot create good because he is pure and good. So that would only be an expansion of himself or his own goodness. And he would have to create something, I guess, opposite since he's pure, and that would be evil. And I think all of his creations can be considered evil. Animals don't seem inherently evil, but it just seems like human beings have an inherent evilness and are fighting against it constantly. There's a complexity here, and there's evil involved. So, but let me know what you thought about that story. I thought it was real cool. I went through kind of a similar experience. And the sequencer is going crazy. Well, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Leave it on a high note. I felt like that ending narration was good until I just dropped that ball. And I was dropping the ball a few times in the middle of that narration previously, but it's improving. Thanks for hanging there. Hope you're enjoying the art, and gonna make another video here soon, so stay tuned. Hail Yahweh and peace.